Hey, Steve, it's been a little bit since we've talked to you. So I just guess I'm kind of wondering, how would you evaluate, I guess, your position group so far?
Well, we're growing. I think you know, at times making strides. Obviously last week we didn't have the kind of day that we wanted to have. You give up 166 yards rushing. Obviously, we take a lot of pride in trying to stop the run, and we weren't able to do that well enough, and we certainly didn't play consistently enough and decisive enough to do that. But at the same time, whether we go out and hold somebody to 16 yards rushing, or you have a day that you don't really like, for us, our approach, or for me, my approach is the same. I approach this the exact same way, because you got to be consistent. You got to be systematized. You got to believe in your teaching progression. You've got to believe in what you're trying to get across to guys, how you're going about doing it. And what I really like about our group is these guys are really good professionals. They come and they practice very hard. They're attentive in meetings. They do a lot of things outside the field. So I could not be happier with the process of what these guys are trying to do. And then now, I always say, I tell them all the time, whenever they do well, that's them. And whenever, we struggle, then that's me. That, I'll take the responsibility of that. This is a really accountable group, both myself and the rest of the guys. And I really like this group of guys, Sam. They're working hard. We're just working on being, consistent, consistently doing what we want them to do, and playing the style of play that we want to play here. And we've got great resources, obviously, with Coach Rivera and Jack being tremendous linebackers coaches as well. So, I think we're making strides. We just have to be more consistent as we continue to do that.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're teaching as hard as you can. I wonder how you translate, the teaching into, having the players be more decisive, and kind of how that works together to get better. You know what I mean?
You just continue to reinforce what you're doing. I like to say I don't have to make stuff up. If you believe in what you're teaching and how you're doing it, of course, we're always finding new ways to connect with our players and to get them to understand. And I wouldn't say that they don't understand at all. I think they do. Now it's just a matter of continuing to put them in situations, continuing to reinforce, what we want to do, whether it's drill work, whether it's in practice, putting them in those situations, and continuing to show them what you want done, and certainly praising it when they do, and just correcting it and teaching, when it's something that needs to be fixed a little bit. So, like I said, I want to be steady Eddie with these guys, whether it's, we're averaging 10 yards a game, or whether we have a day that we don't like. That's the big thing for me, is to be consistent with them and be systematized and trust the process, and continue to teach and continue to put these guys and try to develop them and put them in positions that we want to do. And like I said before, I couldn't be happier with them on how they're approaching it. And that's the big thing. These guys are embracing it, and they're really working hard, and they're putting the time in, and that's a big part of what we need to do.
Thanks, Steve.
You bet.
Hi, Steve. Having coached at the college level and now obviously at the pro level, have you noticed, is there one thing or certain things that have, been more difficult or more of a challenge for younger players as they transition to the pro game for your position specifically?
Oh, I think so. I think you're going to see that. We're seeing, Nikki, that's a great question. We're seeing some of the things in college, offensively, seep in a little bit to the NFL, but there's still many things in the NFL that aren't being done in college. People aren't lining up with big people and running a lot of gap schemes and pullers, and they really are good at distorting the run fits. When you get into some of the zone read quarterback stuff that you're seeing from a lot of people nowadays, the college guys, they've been doing that for, their entire college career. And a lot of them have been doing that all through high school. But what the NFL does, I think, is that those direct runs with those great tailbacks and the offensive lines, and they're not just lining up saying set hike and here we go. They're putting motions on it. They're moving people with jet motions, and they're making people adjust and get downhill and fit. And I think that's one of the biggest things is the college game is not as direct. It's a very lateral with, quarterback going here and this guy going here. It's a little bit more lateral. So getting younger players to learn how to play behind their pads and downhill and aggressively and decisively know where it is that I have to go and fit. I think that's probably the biggest transition, Nikki, for young linebackers into the NFL.
And I think in Denver, you had Frank Bush as your positional coach for much of your time. How much do you draw from your time with him, just in how he coached you in terms of, how you work with the guys now?
Oh, it was great. Frank was demanding without being demeaning. He could develop a great rapport with guys and be close to guys, but he didn't have to be their best friend. And I think you got to be able to strike that balance anywhere as a coach. And Frank was really, really good at that. Obviously, he's had a tremendous career. So he's done that really, really well. And I got Frank when he was first started out coaching. And, I still pick his brain anytime I see him on the road, or when we used to be able to go on the road and watch the college guys and all that kind of stuff. He's just had such a great career, and he's been really good for me even now as a coach, to help and to draw on. And I've been really fortunate, Nikki, that, you kind of pick things from everybody that has touched you either as a player or as a coach. And anybody that you work with really forms you and shapes you. And that's why I always come on here and tell you guys how grateful I am, to be able to work for Ron and to be able to work for Jack, that, not a lot of coaches, they can go their whole career without being exposed to one guy like that, let alone two, and that's such a blessing for me. And I'm very, very grateful, because a lot of coaches have been able to touch me and shape kind of who I am and what I believe, throughout the years.
Thanks, Steve.
Oh, great questions.
Hey, Steve. Ron this week just publicly said that he'd like to see the linebackers play better. Can that light a fire under a position group as a whole? And have you seen anyone kind of respond to that challenge through practice or anything like that?
Oh, I think so, Matt, for sure. Obviously we all are competitors. We're all prideful in a good way. And we need to play better. But, the good part is I don't think this is the kind of group that really needs to have a fire lit underneath them. Like I said, they really have approached it the right way. And I'm not saying that Ron wasn't right in doing that, but I do think that these young men, they want to play better, and I want them to play better. I need to coach them better, the whole deal. So, but we're in this together, and we're a highly accountable group. I think we're a highly accountable defense, and we'll get better. And like I said, just human nature, these guys are very highly competitive and want to do well. And when you're a linebacker now, you don't like anybody running the ball on you. That's just the kind of the name of the game. You don't want to give up your sword, so to speak, when it comes to those types of things. So, we're going to continue to work and really try to correct this. And like I said, we've done some good things, throughout the season, and we just have to be a lot more consistent. And we'll continue to work, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there.
Right. And with Thomas Davis, he's been inactive the last couple of games, but have you still seen that influence of him bringing that veteran leadership presence? What has he done for the position group?
Absolutely, Matthew. I mean, he, the media, doesn't get to see everything that Thomas does. And, we talk about this a lot, but the players do. And his energy and his intensity and his wealth of knowledge that he has, he's right on in there, staying in it, because, he knows that he's got to be ready to go at a moment's notice. And it's really fun to watch. And I have no problem. We've talked about that. Feel free, interject. Shoot, he's got incredible insight and tips. And you talk about street credibility, with the guys. And he brings the juice every day. He's got a deal where people have to beat him out to the ball every day at practice before we start, that segment of plays. And you see, it's amazing. Guys are flying off the field trying to get to the ball where we're going to start the next period. And he's racing guys there. And you talk about an incredible way of starting a period out with that kind of energy and that kind of intensity. And, it also keeps him ready. But he's been phenomenal. And I've said it before, he's just such an amazing leader, and he's been bringing that every single day, Matthew. So I've been very proud of him.
All right, guys, we've got time for two more, Chris Russell and then Ben.
Hey, Steve, good to see you. Thanks for doing this. You kind of answered one of my questions with Nikki, so I'll ask this, and I hope it makes sense. Ron and Jack have talked about, how some of the defensive linemen have fought, hand technique going from a 3-4 to a 4-3. Has that affected, I guess, the transformation, any of your guys that maybe were here last year without you guys in a 3-4 into this 4-3 in terms of what they have had to do to transform to what you guys want them to do?
I think that part of it is they've been bought in. Absolutely. There's been none of that, obviously, where it's just some of the looks are a little bit different, on how you fit some of those things. Some of those look like those gap schemes or some of the downhill runs that we're seeing that we need to address, Chris, maybe look a little bit different, from a 3-4 to a 4-3, but I'm certainly not going to say that that's a reason. We've been working, these types of things. We're going to continue to work those types of things. And we just have to continue to be more confident, a little bit more assured of ourselves. And when we see it, we're going to attack it. And then once we attack it and fit it, we're going to beat a block and we're going to be great tacklers. So I think it's going to be that easy. I shouldn't say easy. It's going to be that simple. Excuse me. It's certainly not easy. But I wouldn't say that it's anything that, these guys are so used to ingrained. They're NFL linebackers. And I think for NFL linebackers, once you get down where people need to be and, this guy moves from here to there and this guy's over here instead of right here, I don't see that being that type of an issue for my guys.
All right, last
Thanks,
question, Les, actually, not Ben.
Hey, Steve, how's it going?
Hi, Les.
Good. Really, really quick. Ron was talking a second ago about just the cancer and how I thought this was interesting. He said the frustration for him was not having the same energy on the sidelines. As someone who's been with him for a couple of years, I mean, is that noticeable? I mean, how much do you see him kind of still trying to fight through that when he's on sidelines and things?
I tell you, Les, what is noticeable now is he's feeling a lot better. Yeah. He's getting there where it was a little bit noticeable at times, not so much greatly, but if you've been with him a little bit, you can just see the subtle little things, and more than anything, I think it was that 1 week where he first started the second treatment, right? Where that really, I guess, they all say that second round is woo. But it's awesome right now to see where he's at now, and feeling great and doing that. And that's what I've seen more than anything is that Les. And that's pretty darn cool. And like I said, I have great admiration for the man. So, when you see him fight and scratch and claw and do everything that he did, and then now all of a sudden start doing that again, you're like, oh yeah, coach is back. So it's awesome to see.